Welcome, everybody. Hope you're doing well. If you've been paying attention to the statements of prominent Democrats over the last 24 to 48 hours, it's becoming increasingly clear that prominent Democrats are rallying behind President Joe Biden as the continued presidential nominee into November. Is this a good idea? Is this a bad idea? Is Biden the best possible candidate? Is Biden the only reasonable candidate at this point in time? We don't have the answers to all of these questions, but what we can see is that with a few exceptions, I think it was 9 out of the hundreds of Democrats in the House of Representatives, with few exceptions, Democrats in elected office, after speaking to Joe Biden, after speaking to the DNC, after conferring with each other, seem to have decided at this point, for as long as President Biden says he's running for re-election, we're going to get behind him. Is that the right strategy? I don't know. We'll talk about it in a moment. Let me give you some examples. Here is Senator Bernie Sanders, who says until he hears otherwise, Biden is the nominee and Bernie is supporting Joe Biden.
And you do believe that that is President Biden?
Right now, President Biden is the Democratic nominee. Until I hear differently, I will support him. And I do believe that if he makes it clear that he is prepared to stand up for working people, take on powerful special interests, yeah, he will win the election.
And if he does not run, would you support the vice president if he gets behind her?
Right now, Biden is the Democratic nominee, period.
Senator Bernie Sanders.
All right, so Senator Bernie Sanders making that point. What about Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez? And the reason, by the way, that I'm starting with Bernie and AOC is that they are, in a sense, or at least they used to be, although now all of a sudden some of the progressive left has turned on them, saying they sold out. Bernie in the Senate and AOC in the House have been the sort of progressive torchbearers for years now in many ways. And this is what they are saying. Of course, there are those who hear this. They say they've sold out. They've been strong-armed. They've been bribed. Okay, maybe they've just decided it's probably not a good idea to talk about replacements while Joe Biden is saying, I'm not going anywhere. Maybe what helps us win is just appearing to be united behind Joe Biden, whether they are or are not. And we'll talk about that in a moment. Here is AOC.
Has spoken to the president over the weekend. I have spoken with him extensively. He made clear then, and he has made clear since, that he is in this race. The matter is closed. He had reiterated that this morning. He has reiterated that to the public. Joe Biden is our nominee. He is not leaving this race. He is in this race, and I support him. Now, what I think is critically important right now is that we focus on what it takes to win in November, because he is running against Donald Trump, who is a man with 34 felony convictions that has committed 34 felony crimes, and not a single Republican has asked for Donald Trump to not be the nominee.
And we will talk about that in a moment, by the way.
I'm here to win on this democracy. I'm here to win in November. And what's critically important is what I believe that the president needs to do, and I have communicated this, what the president and the White House should do in order to make sure that we win in November. And that is making sure that we pivot and working and increasingly commit to the issues that are critically important to working people across this country. How are we going to expand Medicare? How are we going to expand Social Security? How are we going to provide relief to people's rent and mortgages? And if we can do that and continue our work on student loans, secure a ceasefire, and bring those dollars back into investing in public policy, then that's how we win in November. That's what I'm committed to, and that's what I want to make sure that we secure.
So AOC making it clear, and then on down the line. We'll look at a couple others. Here is Hakeem Jeffries, a Democratic member of the House of Representatives, speaking to CNN's Manu Raju.
Biden staying as your Democratic nominee.
Yes, I made clear the day after the debate publicly that I support President Joe Biden and the Democratic ticket. My position has not changed.
Debbie Wasserman Schultz, also Congresswoman from Florida, DNC chair at one point, says that this is all about defeating Donald Trump, and it appears that it is Joe Biden who is going to be, at least theoretically, in the position to do that.
Do you think Joe Biden's the only one that can beat Donald Trump?
I think Joe Biden will beat Donald Trump. He has beaten Donald Trump before, and Donald Trump is an existential threat that to whom the antidote is Joe Biden.
All right. So Debbie Wasserman Schultz. And then lastly, and critically, very interestingly, because in the immediate aftermath, I mean, during the presidential debate and in the immediate aftermath, immediately the thoughts of many in terms of this hypothetical Biden replacement turning to California Governor Gavin Newsom, nauseating to some, but thrilling to others, a polarizing figure for sure. Here is Gavin Newsom asked about the post-debate course correction of Biden, and he says he likes it.
Governor, the best campaigns, the winning campaigns, always right the ship. What is your message to voters out there, regular people, not the pundits, not the talking heads, who saw President Biden in that debate and thought he was too old?
Well, I think you're doing just that. They're riding the ship. You saw the rally in Wisconsin. You saw the work that he did this weekend. I just left Pennsylvania. I had 7 stops in Philadelphia. We're in Pittsburgh. I was all over Michigan. And they're doing everything they need to do to reach out directly to voters, to meet with people where they are. A lot of calls that have been leaked, for better or for worse, a lot of outreach. And I think they're doing exactly what they need to do.
What about those high-profile Democrats, some in Congress, who are saying he does have to be replaced at the top?
Yeah, it's just the overwhelming majority of Democrats that are not saying that. Overwhelming majority of Democrats that are not only saying they have his back, but are actually demonstrating that by supporting him, being out in the campaign trail. I've seen a bunch of them over the last few days, over the weekend, over a holiday weekend. They could have dialed it in, they could have stepped back, but they stepped up and they're continuing to fight. So
listen, here's the bottom line. Save a few exceptions. In terms of the public-facing message, Democrats are saying Biden is our guy. I don't believe for a second that they all think Biden is the best candidate. And if they were choosing today, if Biden were not the incumbent, I think the vast majority would not say Biden is the guy that I would seek out. But that doesn't matter, because ultimately this is a question of how do you defeat Donald Trump. Now, I continue to get dozens of emails and hundreds of comments overall from people that on the one hand are furious with me that I would even mention that there is discussion of replacing Joe Biden, that I'm hurting Biden by even mentioning that that's being discussed. This is not a show that is an arm of the Democratic Party. I don't know how many times I can explain this. If you're looking for a show that will calculate what is published because the goal is to be aligned with the DNC and the Democratic Party, that is not this show. The discussion about replacing Joe Biden went mainstream. And thus, I would be doing something dishonest, and I would be doing a disservice to all of you if I pretended that didn't exist. And also, it would be a very strange thing to do, given that this is also a media analysis show and it's a story in the media. So I'm hearing from people who say, David, even discussing the fact that some are saying replace Biden, you're hurting the movement. I talk about what's going on, and the discussion about replacing Biden is going on. On the other hand, I continue to hear from furious audience members who say, David, the fact that you are hemming and hawing and not saying replace Biden now is hurting the movement. You should be saying get Biden the hell out of there right away. Well, as I've said before, this is a show where I just tell you what I think. And what I think is that the case is quite unclear. And I don't know that yesterday's debate between Cenk Uygur and Rachel Bitecofer, by the way, resolved any of that lack of clarity. But here's what does seem abundantly clear. Democrats in elected office have realized what definitely hurts us is Biden saying I'm staying in and us saying he should step down. That definitely hurts us. And I think that they are right about that. If the end point is preventing Donald Trump from getting 4 more years, denying him the situation in which he could implement Agenda 47 and Project 2025. If that's the important thing, it seems a bad idea is having Biden publicly saying I'm staying in and other Democrats saying get out. If Biden does get out, if you pressure him privately, for example, and he gets out, well, that's a different story. Then you change your public messaging. But if the goal is to defeat Trump, Biden and Democrats publicly arguing about whether he should stay in seems very, very bad. Now let's get to why aren't more people calling for Trump to step down. I try to take my health and fitness seriously, cardio, weights, eating right. You can do all of the right things and have one major pitfall, which is just not knowing how your metabolism is functioning during your workouts. But our sponsor, Lumen, gives you that power. Lumen is the world's first handheld metabolic coach. It's quite simply a device that measures your metabolism through your breath. And on the app, it lets you know if you're burning fat or carbs, and it'll give you tailored guidance with the goal of improving nutrition, workouts, sleep, and even stress management. None of these cookie cutter, one-size-fits-all nutrition plans. Lumen lets you know what's happening in your body in real time. It builds you a personalized health plan based on your data. For example, right before a workout, you can breathe into your Lumen and it'll tell you, are you burning carbs or fat? And on that basis, Lumen will tell you whether to carb up before your workout for an energy boost or if you're good to go. Using that biofeedback, Lumen can help you get the most out of your workouts. And in the long run, these are changes that can really add up. Go to lumen.me/Pacman to get 15% off your Lumen. The link is in the description.